The media portrays Americans as rude, lazy, all the above, and it's further from the truth. The amount of hospitality and kindness and care and pride.
Welcome to America. Some trips do more than take people to a new country. They make them look back at everything they thought they knew. For many European fans, America before the World Cup was just a familiar image from movies, news stories, and the same old jokes repeated online. But when they stepped into glowing stadiums, small towns covered in American flags, and late-night diners still full of life, something started to shift. What they found was a new respect for the way Americans live, work, welcome strangers, and take pride in the place they call home. So what made so many Europeans completely change the way they saw Americans? Let's find out in today's video. Number 1, Americans live with real kindness. What happens when the people who once laughed at America end up being treated by Americans with more kindness than they ever expected?
I love about the European World Cup tourists right now is that they're not just being dropped off in the middle of Los Angeles or New York City that most Americans like myself don't even like. They're being dropped right in the middle of the heart of middle America. I mean, these people are experiencing Waffle House at 1 in the morning in Alabama. These people are being dropped off at Buc-ee's in the middle of nowhere in Missouri. And the most hilarious part about this is a lot of the locals in these areas have no idea who these people are or why they're even there. There's been almost no media coverage or marketing done for the World Cup, especially in these small towns. All this stuff, I could go on and on, all of this stuff that we're seeing all over social media right now of the overwhelming kindness of Americans, that's real America. Don't watch the news, don't hyper-focus on these horrible big cities like New York. Focus on this stuff, because this is real America.
Many European fans arrived in the United States carrying the same familiar images in their minds. Americans are loud, rushed, overly confident, individualistic, and not as refined as Europeans have often prided themselves on being. But then the World Cup took them through packed airports, late-night diners, brightly lit convenience stores, hotels filled with fans, and neighborhoods around the stadiums covered in American flags. After only a few days, many of them began to realize the hardest thing to admit. Maybe they never truly understood Americans, and maybe what they once believed about America had been more unfair than they thought.
Americans are not rude, Germans are not rude. If we are together, we can achieve great things.
What changed the minds of many European fans was not one single act of kindness, but the feeling that they were being welcomed almost everywhere they went. During a crowded World Cup, when airports, restaurants, hotels, and fan zones could easily become overwhelmed, they instead met Americans who were still patient enough to give directions, happy to strike up conversations, explain the food, help pay for something, or simply ask if they needed anything. It was that repeated experience that started to shake old assumptions. If Americans were really as rude and cold as many people had imagined, why were these strangers making visitors feel like honored guests on American soil?
Ever since the World Cup came to the United States, I feel like we have all been witnessing something that is truly amazing and beautiful. I feel like there's this brother and sisterhood that even the United Nations couldn't make happen. And I see so many Americans.
What makes it even more admirable is that this kindness was not limited to polished tourist areas. It showed up in places no one expected to become part of the World Cup stage. A roadside diner late at night, a parking lot before a match, a small town suddenly visited by a group of foreign fans. Those were the places where Europeans met one of the most honest sides of America. Ordinary people who were not officially appointed to represent anyone, but who were representing their country through the way they talked, helped, smiled, and treated strangers with warmth. That is a kind of soft power not every nation has, because it does not come from travel ads or glossy promotional videos. It comes from the everyday habits of the people.
It's a shop in a restaurant. What's all that about?
What you reckon so far?
Very nice, very nice.
Watching some softball in between games, and it's pretty cool seeing all of this love for America.
For many Americans, helping someone find their way, paying ahead for a meal for a group of foreign fans, checking on new neighbors, or holding the door for a family dragging their luggage may feel like a small thing. But for European visitors, those small gestures touched the very place where they had once doubted America the most. They had heard that Americans only cared about themselves, but in real life they found a society where strangers could still care about one another without needing some grand reason. They had assumed American friendliness was just surface-level politeness, but real actions forced them to admit that the openness was genuine, and that it made the whole trip feel far more welcoming. That is something America can be proud of. A country can impress the world with massive stadiums, wide highways, glowing cities, and sporting events that feel like festivals. But what people often remember longest is the way ordinary citizens treated them in a few brief moments. The World Cup may have brought Europe to America for soccer, but American kindness is what made many of them look back at themselves. They arrived with the same old jokes about America, and they left with a new respect for people who work hard, live openly, and make kindness feel like a natural part of everyday life. Number 2. The media got America wrong.
Praise Americans as rude, lazy, all the above, and it's further from the truth. The amount of hospitality and kindness and care and pride Americans hold is truly like no other country I've been to. And everyone came up to me and said, hi, handshakes, how are you? If you have any questions about this or that, let me know. If you want to go hunting, I'll show you this. Not to mention, I've got fantastic neighbors.
If there is one thing that made many European fans feel embarrassed after setting foot in America, it was not that they had underestimated how big the country really was. It was that they realized they had been looking at Americans through a badly distorted lens. For years, the image of America in international media has often been reduced to its loudest pieces: political fights, crime, fast food, online arguments, and a few extreme personalities blown up as if they represented an entire nation of more than 330 million people. Little by little, the real America was shrunk into a handful of stereotypes that were easy to spread, easy to mock, and easy for outsiders to mistake for the whole story. But the World Cup did something the news could not do. It pulled Europeans away from the screen and placed them right in the middle of everyday American life. When a fan stepped off a plane, walked into a diner, stood in line at a convenience store, asked for directions near a stadium, or sat beside an American family in the stands, they were no longer facing America on the internet. They were facing real people. And those people did not match the cold picture they had been told to expect. What stands out is that Americans did not have to try very hard to prove anything. The way they lived answered for itself. A server worked fast but still stayed cheerful. A local helped visitors find the right route, and a stranger started a conversation simply because someone was wearing a jersey from another country. Moments like that made old assumptions lose their weight, because the media can make people fear a country from a distance, but real experience can make them realize they may have been deeply unfair. America is a country watched more closely than almost any other, debated every day, judged through every incident and every heated headline. Yet when outsiders actually step into everyday life, they still find a country that is open, hardworking, and full of hospitality. That does not mean America is perfect, and Americans do not need to pretend their country has no problems. But that is exactly what makes the recognition more meaningful. Even after being misrepresented, misunderstood, and mocked for so long, the real America is still warm enough to change the way many people think. Maybe the media does not completely invent America, but it often chooses the broken pieces that attract the most attention. The World Cup showed Europeans the rest of the picture: small towns, late-night diners, people taking their work seriously, families proudly flying the flag outside their homes, and strangers still treating one another with kindness in the middle of a massive country. Once they saw that side, many fans began to understand that America cannot be judged fairly through a few short news clips. To understand Americans, you have to meet them in real life, and many Europeans have now done exactly that, only to quietly admit that the media had led them to think about America the wrong way. Number 3, Americans put heart into their work. What makes many foreigners respect Americans is the way they put personal pride into the work they do. In America, an ordinary job is rarely treated as something people simply have to get through until the end of a shift. Whether it is a server, a truck driver, a small business owner, or an engineer at a tech company, there is often one thing you can clearly see. If you are going to do the job, do it in a way you can be proud of. That spirit has been part of America for a very long time. Thomas Edison did not become a symbol just because he had a few good ideas. He became a symbol because he represented a very American kind of persistence, the kind that is willing to try again and again until the result finally works. Walt Disney was doubted, failed, and had to start over more than once, but he still built an entertainment empire that made millions of families around the world connect their childhood memories with America. America runs every day because of people who never appear on magazine covers. It is the delivery driver leaving home before sunrise, the electrician climbing up a pole in rough weather, and countless others doing jobs most people only notice when something goes wrong. They do not need anyone to call them heroes, but they are the reason a country as large as America can keep moving at such an incredible pace. And this is the question that makes many Europeans take a second look. If Americans were truly as lazy as the old jokes claimed, how could a country like this build Silicon Valley, Hollywood, NASA, massive retail chains, universities that attract the entire world, and millions of small businesses that open their doors every morning? Not every American is wealthy, and not everyone has their dream job. But so many of them still walk into work with something deeply respectable, the belief that what they do has value. That is what makes the American way of hard work different. It is not only about the number of hours people work, it is about the attitude they bring with them. Americans can be tired, under pressure, or working 2 jobs to support their families, but many still try to smile at customers, do their part well, and believe that tomorrow can be better if they do not give up today. That spirit is something America can be proud of, because behind the glowing cities and giant companies are millions of ordinary people working with responsibility, self-respect, and real heart. Number 4, everyday life in America. What many Europeans remember most about America is not always the famous landmarks. They may take photos in New York, pass through Los Angeles, or stand inside massive stadiums, but the feeling of the real America often comes from places that seem much more ordinary. Places that look like simple stops along the way can end up becoming part of the memory. In Europe, many people are used to old cities, beautiful squares, and walkable streets with hundreds of years of history. In America, what stays with you can be a late-night Waffle House, a Buc-ee's so huge that first-time visitors can hardly believe it is just a travel stop, or a Cracker Barrel where a restaurant and a gift shop sit under the same roof. Everything may seem simple at first, but it has a way of making people feel happy, relaxed, and somehow closer to the everyday life of Americans. What matters is that these places are not trying to look fancy. They are familiar, convenient, and a little free-spirited, much like the way America moves through daily life. You can eat late without anyone making it feel strange, buy coffee in the middle of the night, strike up a conversation with a stranger at the checkout counter, or drive for hours just to reach somewhere bigger, brighter, and more lively. For many European visitors, that easy sense of freedom is what catches them off guard. They once thought America was only impressive because of its big symbols, but then they found themselves won over by the ordinary details. America does not always need to be glamorous to be memorable. Sometimes a late-night meal, a friendly greeting, or a brightly lit travel stop in the middle of the highway is enough to show people why everyday life in America has a charm of its own. Number 5, hard work. If you want to understand why Americans are respected for their work ethic, do not just look at the skyscrapers or trillion-dollar companies. Look at the way this country is kept running by ordinary jobs. A truck driver may drive hundreds of miles to get goods to a supermarket before the next morning. A nurse may work the night shift, caring for patients while the rest of the city is asleep. That kind of hard work did not appear out of nowhere. It has been part of America's growth from the beginning. From Henry Ford's auto factories, where the assembly line changed an entire industry, to NASA, where thousands of engineers, mechanics, mathematicians, and astronauts worked for years to put a man on the moon. From Hollywood, where a single movie can depend on hundreds of people working quietly behind the camera, to Silicon Valley, where teams of engineers stay up through the night fixing a software problem before the rest of the world wakes up and checks their phones. Those achievements came from a culture that treats serious work as the way to turn ideas into reality. What matters most is that this spirit does not belong only to famous people or major companies. It also lives in ordinary Americans who help build the country every day. It lives in the farmer who wakes up before sunrise, and in the immigrant who opens a small restaurant and works long hours so their children can have a better chance. How many countries could maintain a massive economy, complex supply chains, hospitals that never go dark, and universities that attract students from around the world if their people were truly as lazy as the old jokes claim? Number 6, real America is stranger than the movie.
Bro, man, it looks so fake. Like, genuinely looks so fake. Oh my God.
How many Europeans once believed Hollywood exaggerated America, only to step into real life and realize that Hollywood sometimes did not go far enough? In the movies, a diner glowing in the middle of the night already feels cinematic. In America, that diner can actually be open at 1 in the morning, with truck drivers eating beside college students, a server refilling coffee as if the night still has plenty of time left, and a stranger willing to ask where you are from simply because they heard an unfamiliar accent. What makes America so surprising is that everyday life here can feel too alive to seem ordinary. A travel stop along the highway can be as big as a supermarket, selling everything from hot food to t-shirts. A high school stadium can leave foreigners stunned, wondering how a student game could possibly need that many seats. A parking lot before a match can turn into an outdoor party with people grilling, playing music, waving flags, talking to strangers, and acting as if the whole city belongs to one big family. That is something movies can never fully copy, because it is not just about the scenery, it is about the energy of the people. Americans have a very special ability to turn ordinary things into unforgettable experiences. Number 7. The freedom people feel in America. What draws many Europeans into America is not just its size, but the feeling that people are freer in the small choices of everyday life. Here, freedom is not only found in the formal words of the Constitution, even though America has always taken pride in freedom of speech, the right to express one's beliefs, the pursuit of happiness, and the right to shape one's own life. Freedom also shows up in daily life, in the way people dress, speak, choose their work, open a small business, move to another state, start over after failure, or simply eat a sandwich at 11 in the morning without worrying about being judged. For many visitors, that may sound like a small thing, but it creates a powerful feeling. In America, people can be different and still have a place. Someone can fly a flag outside their home, cheer for the team they love, speak their mind, build their own dream, and live in the way they believe is right. Not every path is easy, but the feeling that you have the right to try, the right to choose, and the right to begin again is part of what makes America special. That is why many people come here and understand that freedom is not just a slogan. It is something Americans live with every day. After everything many European fans experienced in America, the biggest question is how long they had misunderstood Americans. From late-night diners and strangers willing to help, to workers who take real pride in what they do, to the sense of freedom and national pride that shows up in everyday life. America gave them a very different picture from the old jokes they had seen online. Americans do not need to be perfect to deserve respect. What makes them memorable is the way they work hard, live openly, welcome strangers, and still hold a strong belief in their country. Maybe the World Cup did more than bring Europe to America for soccer. Maybe it helped them see a version of America that felt more real, warmer, and far more admirable. So what do you think Europeans misunderstood most about Americans? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy cultural stories that help us see America from a different angle, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who has always wondered how real-life America compares to what we see on screen. This video is based on traveler reactions, fan experiences, and publicly available information at the time of production. It is meant to share perspectives, entertain, and open up cultural discussion, not to attack any individual, community, or country.